I'm Joe Halco, your host, and welcome to another episode of NCSS Here for You. Since 1958, Northwestern Counseling and Support Services has been providing access to high-quality services which promote healthy living and emotional well-being to the residents of Franklin and Grand Isle counties. Over the years, as the needs of the community have changed, so too have the programs and services that we make available to assist children, adolescents, adults, families, and seniors. We take our role in the community seriously and strive to provide a continuum of the highest quality services to meet the needs of individuals who at any point seek assistance. 2025 marks a milestone for NCSS Here for You, as it's the 20th year that we've produced shows that are airing monthly, highlighting the numerous services that are provided by NCSS. As we begin 2025, it's time to look ahead to challenges facing NCSS while recognizing how the organization has had a positive impact on individuals and families. We'll hear first-person accounts from people who recently spoke at an NCSS legislative breakfast. This month's episode is titled In Their Own Words, and it's part 2 of my conversation with Todd Bauman that began last month. These powerful testimonies speak to the important services that NCSS and the Parent-Child Center of NCSS staff provide throughout the year. NCSS is dedicated to meeting people where they are, offering innovative, person-centered, and accessible services when they need them. This is the second of our two-part series, and to discuss the accomplishments and challenges facing NCSS in detail, I'm pleased to welcome back my guest, Todd Bauman, the Executive Director of NCSS. Todd, welcome back.
Thank you, Joe. Good to be here.
So here we are, 2025 and moving forward. So let's again go through the challenges that you're facing as an organization moving into 2025.
We are the Community Mental Health Center for Franklin and Grand Isle, and we serve about 4,000, just over 4,000 people every single year. We're about 525 employees, providing services, mental health and substance use services, as well as providing supports to people with intellectual disabilities and developmental delays. One thing that I think has been really interesting is we've been talking to our community partners, talking to our state partners, and we hear a lot from them about the challenges that they face and brainstorming how could we be part of the solution for those challenges. Two areas that do pop up consistently are the need for more residential care, 24/7 care for people with mental health needs and intellectual disabilities, as well as just overall greater access to care in general. So those are two themes that do seem to pop up when we do talk to our community partners.
Mm-hmm. And, when you talk about the work that's being done, other areas like law enforcement and other healthcare, I know NCSS has made a big difference over the past. So it would be a couple other areas that
we definitely have. We had our legislative breakfast fairly recently, and we heard from our law enforcement, some school-based services, as well as people talking about our early childhood services. So we know that those are areas as well that we want to partner with the community and find ways to be, again, part of the solution, bring our expertise to the table. How can we help address some of those concerns?
Yeah. And let's move now to one of the other testimonials from the legislative breakfast. And we're going to hear from Julianne Foley, and she's advocating for housing for individuals with disabilities. And let's take a look at what Julianne had to say.
You get out. Well.
You're gonna click for me?
You are going to click yourself. You get the power.
It's
This one. You can't see.
That makes me go, okay. Really happy to be here. It's great to have this opportunity to share a little bit of my story and my new mission that I have found myself on. So this is us, this is my family. We've been in Georgia, Vermont for 30 years, supported by NCSS for 19 now. Thank you very, very much, all of you. This is my son. So my firstborn, he was born with Sturge Weber syndrome 21 years ago. What that means for him is that he has had seizures since he was 2, brain damage from a lesion that's on his brain that's very similar to the one that you see on his face. He is intellectually and developmentally disabled. He has anxiety and OCD. He is very young, so that's what makes him really wonderful. So that's me on the side. You can see he's taller than I am, but he's very like preschool level-ish. So he enjoys being silly, finding words that rhyme, playing board games like Candyland, playing catch. He would not recognize risk of harm, so therefore he is a vulnerable adult. He relies on mom and dad for all of his daily tasks. He requires 24/7 supervision. He needs stable, supported housing. With the help of NCSS, shout out to Tim, thank you so much. He is learning to trust people outside of his parents now, and we're making real progress, going at his pace. Our hope for him is that he has community, that he finds his community and he finds his friends. If you ask him what he wants to be when he grows up, he'll tell you he wants to be a firefighter. So a little bit about human rights. So the rights of my son and the people in his population, so the vulnerable adults in Vermont, are no different than our rights. So things like a right to fully access community, rights to be protected from harm and exploitation. So a bit about residential programs. So each individual, each vulnerable adult in Vermont has unique needs. We need person-centered planning and care, and it's so critical to ensure stability and prevent crisis. Many of you in the room know this so well because we're supporting these individuals. Right now, there's 602 new units of supported housing that are needed to meet the needs of adults in Vermont with intellectual and developmental disabilities like my son. Federal rules expect that people will have choice in housing. Our designated agencies in Vermont need more help to support these vulnerable adults, access community, and ensure that they are stable and they are safe. Before I kind of walk through some of the choices of housing, I just want to talk to my experience of high school to where we are now. So lots, and I saw it, Todd, on your graph. So much support in school. I was amazed at the support that my son got. He was mainstreamed, he had friends in school. They really figured out how to help him grow. He's graduated from high school. And a couple of years after that sunk in, I realized that he was home 24/7, and I didn't know how to get him out. He likes it there, right? He's got mom, dad, that's his comfort zone. But I wanted more for him, and I wanted more to know him. So eventually I started connecting with people, and I found this group of over 100 parents like myself that are trying to work with the DDHI group, that are working with Vermont to make things better. Very motivating. One of the reasons I'm here is just trying to get the story out, because there are many of us. There are many, and I went from the space of like desperately trying to figure out what I do with Owen to, oh my goodness, there are over 100 Owens in the state of Vermont. Like, I am not alone. So that's been very helpful for me to connect with parents and just figure out what we can do. So right now, so 3 of the options that I wanted to talk about: shared living provider model. So this is the model that is most readily available for folks. It does work for some, it would not work for my son. So reasons being, my son will need multiple staff that can rotate in and out to prevent burnout. The only reason why my husband and I are still standing is because we passed the Owen baton. So either my husband's home with him or I'm home with him, and that gives us a break from his care. I would also never be able to consent to an unlicensed home where the caregiver is an independent contractor and not the staff of an agency. Just personally, I can't do that. As a legal guardian and parent, I would need to be able to sign a contract that assures me that he's safe and his needs are being met. Two options that potentially could be an option for my son. So intentional communities, I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about intentional communities because I personally find them so beautiful. I had the pleasure of touring at Heartbeat, and I also applied both at Heartbeat and Yellow House for my son. So these are intentional communities where people with disability and people without disabilities work and live together. And they can just be really, really beautiful. Unfortunately, my son's needs are too high for Heartbeat and the Yellow House, so he wasn't accepted. Riverflow, which just opened in October, I'm extremely happy about. They are the first intentional community in Vermont that's serving higher needs individuals like my son. So they opened in October with 3 founding friends, so they're kind of getting stabilized. They hope to expand. I will stay close with them to see if maybe this will be an option for my son someday. We need more. 602 units of housing, supported stable housing are needed. There's 3 intentional communities, it's not enough. So we need to figure out a way to support more of these intentional communities. Another option that was just codified or in Title 24, Chapter 117 includes accessory dwelling units. Huge, great new step. And something that a lot of the parents in that group that I was talking about are considering, including my family. Do we put a mother-in-law apartment on our house or something like that where my son can start learning the skills that he needs to not be with mom and dad, so that when we get to the point where we can't do what we're doing, he's ready, he's safe, he's in a stable spot. So this is very attractive to us. However, right now we hesitate because we know there's a staffing challenge. There's nothing and there's no policies to address obligations for designated agencies to staff. We're struggling with staffing in general. So I could do this and then we could not be able to find the staff that we need to support it. So more attention is needed for that, as well as down the road, how do we manage an accessory dwelling unit? So if a lot of the families think, okay, this is a great option, what happens with the real estate? Can we deed it over to a designated agency? We need to work all that out. Other questions? Brittany? Yes.
Boy, powerful, and certainly, Owen, there are needs that NCSS has been able certainly to help with Owen's circumstances. This is an opportunity to talk about our developmental services division and a lot of the great work that they do in the community through residential, all the various touch points that they have in making people hopefully live their best life.
We have a network of shared living providers, or SLPs, they're called. And they're not our agency staff, but they're people in the community that we partner with to provide housing for people with intellectual disabilities and developmental delays. And what we've learned is there are times when an individual's need is just beyond what a shared living provider can provide in their own home. And so we have really worked hard to expand our continuum of care, to build out that higher end structure. So we've developed residential programs, 24/7 programs. So when we do have those individuals that just can't be maintained safely for whatever reason in a shared living provider home, we want to be able to have a resource so people can stay here in our own community, stay close to their families, and get the level of care that they need.
And that is it's so important, Todd, because, you know, we always talk about the work that our staff does in developmental services, and everybody's circumstance is different that's dealing with intellectual or developmental disability. However, everybody wants to live their best life, whatever that means. And for some individuals, it just takes a lot more services to be able to make that happen. But I think it's important to note that each individual that NCSS serves, they are indeed individuals, and it's the best possible programming to make their life the best it can be.
You know, Julianne talked about her son, Owen, who is a young adult. We also have seen an increase in older Vermonters that need specialty kinds of care. They need single level. They're struggling to navigate stairs. They need grab bars.
Yeah.
They might need a higher level of nursing care. And so that's another area that we're trying to expand into. And we are about to open a program that we've called the Able House, which is a name that our Developmental Services Standing Committee came up with.
Mm-hmm.
And that should open in the next couple of months. And that's specifically targeting older Vermonters with intellectual disabilities or developmental delays. And these are people that already live right here in our community. They're people's grandparents. And we know that without this level of support, oftentimes these folks, because of their special need, would get sent away from the community, away from their family. And so by leaning into this and developing this program, we think we can support this specific target population right here in our own community, closer to their families.
Yeah, and I think one of the big things is that it is local and it's close to their families, so you're not taking them out of the area, which I know can be very traumatic for individuals. That all being said, there is another individual who spoke at our recent legislative breakfast. His name is Anthony Bocash, and he'll explain some of the services that NCSS has been able to provide him and help him through difficult struggles. Let's listen to what Anthony had to say.
We got Anthony.
Yes.
Come on up.
So thank you for having me. My name is Anthony Bocash. And just like our last speaker, I can relate. I have family that's every race, spread out all over. But most of my family is like in Florida. I have a grandma here, that's it. So I don't have a lot of resource, family support. I have friends and old college friends and people that I know in the Burlington area, but not in Enosburg Falls where I live. I'm secluded. I have nobody. Not usually most people have like at least that one extra person or something in addition to programs like this. They usually have something, and maybe it's, I might want to go get counseling one day, or maybe I'll just talk to, my family instead, and I'll get through, and I'll do that at some point. For me, it wasn't even a choice. I had nobody. I went through some of the worst times in my life. My family's from here. I had a grandfather that was in a wheelchair, paralyzed from the waist down. He sold wood-burnt pictures on the mountain road in Stowe for 30 years. Everybody knows him by Bingham Falls. He's gone now. He passed. My uncle passed. He was at 42 about 12 to 14 years ago. He passed in my arms. He had brain, lung, and liver cancer. I'm 45 years old, and I've been to 50 plus deaths and funerals in my life. I didn't get any addictions. I didn't really get any, wanting to, I'm not a do-it-yourselfer or whatever you want to call it. I'm not a suicidal person, but I did live through that. I had 30 friends that died from overdoses. 3 were suicidal, 2 were drive-by shootings. My family lives in Jacksonville, Florida. So I've been through all that. I've been I can't with my physical disabilities right now, but I've been a Michael Jackson performer since I was 5 years old. I'm known all over the state of Vermont doing that. Did hip hop, write poetry, write literature, working on an album right now. So through all that, I had good things growing up and being in Vermont and being in Florida, and I lived in Bushwick, Brooklyn for a year to do music. I had some very good up times, but I had some down times too, like all the deaths. This month is actually the anniversary of my girlfriend's death, 1 year anniversary. She had a brain aneurysm and she was 38 and passed. And so I've been going through all this, and in my earlier life, you know, criminal, just running with the wrong crowd, just bad things happened. I dealt with it. I gave it to God. I'm a spiritual person. I'm Baptist, so I'm very spiritual. And I have my writings. I have nobody. I see 3 to 5 doctors a week, but I don't have that one neighbor or person. I'm very secluded. I'm trying to transfer to Burlington. So I just write. I just write my literature. I'm working on a poetry book. I'm working on an album right now. And through all these traumas that I went through, feeling real down, you know, started drinking heavy, you know, wasn't really addicted to it, but it was pulling at me. Gave that up, gave it to God, and I reached out to Compass Comprehensive Pain on Tilly Drive, 118 Tilly Drive there. They were great. They have a lot of opportunities and things there. But firstly, I reached out to NCSS and started, this was maybe 5 years ago, I think it was, started just reaching out, getting into counseling. I needed to talk to someone outside of, no offense, but outside of doctors. I was sick of seeing doctors, and I need somebody to like hold some of my crap. I needed to get it out. I needed to talk to a person. God is great. The music was phenomenal. The writing, it all saved me. It all saved me. But I needed that tangible one-on-one work, and that's what NCSS did. It's not just that I got into counseling to talk about my mental and physical things. I have PTSD, depression, and anxiety, severe. I sleep maybe 4 hours a night. I go to bed at 11, and I get up between 1 and 4 every single day, and I do not go back to sleep. It's just I have all those terrors and those visions that I'm still fighting through, but I try to be optimistic. I'm a driven dreamer, and I try to just be there for someone who's not as strong. You know, I've been through a lot, more than most people see in their whole life, and yet I still try to be that. You know, they say in the Bible, iron strengthens iron or sharpens iron, and I try to be that, you know, in the community. I can't do what these people do. I can't do the real counseling and do it formal, like, you know, what they do every day is so many levels, and it's so, and they take on the trauma too. They might put on, you know, professional face and everything, but they're people and they show it. In this department, they show it. And there's on a big scale, and I've looked for a lot of counseling, a lot of different support things. I've been attacked where I'm at in Enosburg Falls by like 20 or 30 drug problem people. There was prostitution going on next door. You wouldn't think so in a country area like that, but it was going on. I've called some people from the police departments that are probably here today. I had 3 restraining orders just in the little area against people. So I've lived it and I've done it. But through our resources, and these people showed their heart through this organization. I'm not just saying that. It's so enriching. You go to movie night. I write poetry, so I did the celebration of the arts. I've been doing that, and it's so many levels. I can't really do the hiking and the stuff, but it's what's offered. This program needs help and needs support because there's not many that are good programs, quality like this. There's programs, and then there's quality programs. And this program, I stand by 100%. They've been great, and that's I guess about all I have to say. So thank you.
Anthony certainly has had some traumatic instances in his life, without question.
We definitely see a lot of people struggling with grief, with trauma, and we feel our job is to provide a continuum of care so that people can access the level of support that they need. And, you know, Anthony's somebody that I've had a chance to talk to a few times and hear him speak. His story is powerful. I do think there's at times a stigma against accessing services that people need. And Anthony's courage to step up and share his story, I do think that does have an impact, and it does encourage others to also come forward and access the services that they need. So I am very grateful to Anthony for being willing to share his story.
Yeah, and Todd, when you look at a lot of the stories, a lot of the presenters that we've heard from over the past 2 months, what stands in the way of many individuals just like them is that word stigma, because even though we're in 2025 and we would hope that mental health and people dealing with intellectual and developmental disabilities wouldn't have a stigmatizing roadblock, unfortunately there's a lot of people who feel they're the only ones, and due to stigma, they don't seek help when they should. And many instances they wait 5 or 10 years longer than perhaps they should. And I think the fact of what our community mental health team does as far as being able to help individuals, whether it's through outpatient therapy or some of the groups and that type of thing, can really, really change a person's life.
We definitely want people to be able to access the services that they need. And we are right in the process of opening an access center, which will be right downtown St. Albans. And that structure, that program, is designed to help people to access services, the right services when they need them. That we know there are moments when people are comfortable accessing services, and those windows of opportunity will often close. And so we want to be able to respond in those moments when people are ready to access care, to get them connected to the services, because we do know that those moments at times are fleeting. So we want to be super responsive right there in that moment.
Yeah, and that is one of the really, I think, positive aspects about a lot of what we've talked about over the last 2 months, which is having staff embedded, like in law enforcement, in our schools, in a variety of areas, where when somebody seeks that assistance, somebody is there for them. And you're right. The people who would get the referral and have to walk through the front door sometimes, 7 out of 10 probably don't take that step, again, because of stigma. And it certainly is one of the things that each and every day we try to reduce, the stigma of mental health. And, hopefully, people will treat their mental health just like they would their physical health, because it's just as important.
And we definitely want to give people access points. Some people will be more comfortable coming into our building. Some will want to access those supports through their primary care office, some through our new access center. We want to create opportunities to make sure people are comfortable accessing the care that they need.
Yeah, critically important. Well, I want to thank my guest, Todd Bauman, for sharing his insights on past accomplishments and future challenges facing NCSS. I also want to thank you, the viewer, for spending time with us again this month. You can learn more about NCSS and all of their programs and services by logging on to ncssinc.org. I'm Joe Halco, and I'll be back next month with another episode of NCSS Here for You.